Cowabunga, dudes, dudettes. Welcome to a regular show about the regular show. I hope you're ready to have a regular time. Oh, I know that I am. I'm your host, Kirkland. Yes, the only Kirkland you've ever heard of. And that's okay. As weird a name as it is, I'm learning to cope with it. Today's date is August 18th, 2023. It's been a hot minute since we talked last time. I hope you've been doing well. You're probably hearing this 6 months later. Who knows? I know I don't. But it'll get released when it's released. So I hope everything's going well for you. There's been some updates that have occurred since the last time we talked. First and foremost, I would like to mention is that Mr. Johnny Hardwick, the voice actor for Dale Gribble on King of the Hill, has passed away. He will be sorely missed. And when you're listening to this, you're like, well, that happened months ago. Yes, I just said you're probably listening to this months later. That's okay. I'm still going to talk about it because the guy was a great comedian and a great voice actor. And he's a talent that show's going to have a hard time replacing if they even... I'm guessing they'll probably continue to put the reboot out. I really hope they do because I think Mike Judge will still knock it out of the park, even with a lot of these voice actors having passed away. And let's see, Brittany Murphy, she passed away way back when. I believe, well, yes, obviously Tom Petty, he voiced Lucky there towards the end of the show. So with a lot of these characters gone, it's going to be a different reboot. If I had to get a revival, I should say, not a reboot. It's going to be a different revival. But I still think that Mike Judge will knock it out of the park. If I had to guess, probably they'll get a new voice actor for Dale Gribble. Maybe Mike Judge can do that voice himself. Maybe even they'll use AI. I don't know. I think they'll do a great job, though. But Mr. Hardwick was about as near to the word irreplaceable as you can get, I would think, just with his delivery and his interpretation that he used of the character to really create that character as they went along. He really shaped Dale Gribble. You can see as the seasons go along, the character of Dale kind of changes a little bit, not only in voice, but also in delivery and just also in quirkiness. I've been recently watching King of the Hill through for about the 9th or 10th time. It's probably the only show I've watched through more than the regular show. And yeah, you can definitely notice that about Dale when you watch it through. The one thing I will say, I know I said last time that I think King of the Hill probably has no bad episodes. And while I do still stand by that, I have hit a patch just this last week where there's a string of episodes where they start to write kind of poorly for Dale. I don't want to say poorly, but just it kind of seems out of character. Almost kind of like The Simpsons, where one day they just started writing Homer to be a complete idiot, which I kind of actually like that Homer. I like just about all versions of Homer, but they kind of do that for Dale. It's the patch of episodes where Dale thinks that he's a Native American, where he has the vision in the woods, and Joseph is supposed to kill a panda, and he's like totally encouraging it, being a horrible parent. And there's a few string of episodes right around there where Dale is just written. They were going in a direction of making him a total idiot, and I'm kind of glad that they steered out of that. I'm not saying that I hated those episodes, but I would say that those are kind of the weaker episodes in that series. And I don't think there are very many weak ones at all, and I still think they're pretty good. It's kind of like one of the lower par episodes or the lower tier episodes of regular show. I still enjoy them. They stick out when you view them in context of some of the better episodes. But enough of that. Rest in peace, Mr. Hardwick. This is not a King of the Hill podcast, though. As much as I would love to do one of those, I just don't have time. Next, I'd also like to make a correction about something I said on the music the last time I made one of these. I think the alternative hit for that week was from the Black Keys, I think. And I said that I thought that they were more of a hip-hop group than an alternative group. For some reason, stupid me was thinking of the Black Eyed Peas. Don't know why. The Black Keys, I do know that band. I believe they did that song, something about then you really might know what it's like, or something like that. That played a lot on the bus when I would be going to school of a morning back in middle school. And they seem like a pop group to me. Sorry, I may be looking over something, but whatever. If I am, wouldn't be the first time I'd, be wrong about something. Won't be the last. So anyway, a little life update for you here. Teaching has just started back a couple weeks ago, so it's going. I have been paired with a new co-teacher, I guess you could say. Well, I teach 7th and 8th grade. I've been paired. We've got two new 7th grade teachers, so I'm the only remaining 7th grade teacher that's, crossed over from last year. And I must say that the person that they put with me, they deny it, but I swear, probably, I think behind the scenes that my admin probably looked and said, "Hey, Kirkland's room is the messiest thing we've ever seen. Hey, that dude is completely disorganized. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put him with the best person to fix that." Because probably the person that I'm working with now is probably like I don't want to say polar opposite of me, but very much on the other side of the, I guess, spectrum of teaching style. And it's almost the perfect compliment, to be honest with you, because all of my grade level teachers and I seem to get along really well. So it's like there's no real personality clash. It's more like personality compliments. So that's going pretty well. By the way, I think her daughter listens to probably this show. I know she listens to Turtles Forever. So she's listening. She knows who she is. Fantastic student. One of my favorites of all time. President of my fan club, which apparently is, I guess, a real thing, because I walked into work one day and there was a sheet on my door that said Dr. Letty's fan club. That's not my last name. My last name's Warletty, but yeah, I know it's a stupid last name. It's weird. You're probably like, I can't even say that. How do you manage to spell that? I don't know. It's okay though. It's caused me a lot of trouble. I about lost, not lost. I'm sorry. There's been a lot of hiccups in things to do with financial or just formality or hoops to jump through to become a teacher or anything like that with my last name. That's okay. They completely spelled my name wrong on my teaching license. It was forever until I got that sorted out. Whew. Anyway, yeah, I walk in and there's a sign-up sheet that says Dr. Letty's fan club, and it's got like 4 people on it. And it now has several people on it. I don't know what it is they like about me. I think they're just signing it because other people do, because most of the kids seem to hate me. That's okay. This kid, she took it upon herself to have, she and her mother made fan club shirts. I walk in and it's a very nicely designed shirt that says Dr. Letty Fan Club. And on the back of it, it's got, president, vice president, and there's these kids wearing them. And I'm thinking, my gosh, if only they knew how much of an imposter I am. So I don't know. It's a blessing I do not deserve, quite honestly, to be able to work with a student that actually appreciates you enough that you can influence their life decisions, hopefully in a good way. She's not the only one that's like that too. I've had quite a few, especially last year, but it's just nice to have students that appreciate you and coworkers that appreciate you, even when you're incompetent 99% of the time like me. That's probably not hyperbole. That's probably a literal statistic. That's okay, though. I guess that's what teamwork's for. I mean, I suck and they don't, so it's all good. But anyway, it's nice to be appreciated. And with that, speaking of appreciation, we're going to segue into today's episode, Appreciation Day, Season 2, Episode 3 of the regular show. You see what I did there? Pretty cool. Not really, but that's okay. Anyway, Season 2, Episode 3 of the regular show, Appreciation Day. It episodes. Listen to me. See, I told you. I'm no good. I'm an imposter. It premiered January 10th, 2011. So, as always, let's provide a little bit of contextual media to explain what was going on, what the landscape was like in the world of entertainment, on January 10th, 2011. Let's start with music. So just looking, just a simple Google search pops up that on January 10th, 2011, the UK number one song was What's My Name by Rihanna featuring Drake. I don't know your name. I guess it's Rihanna. Never listened to it. Sorry. Number one R&B song, Can't Be Friends by Trey Songz. Seems like I've seen that name before. That's about all I know about it. Number one country song, Felt Good on My Lips, Tim McGraw. I kind of know who Tim McGraw is. The Indian outlaw guy. Okay. Number one alternative hit, Waiting for the End, Linkin Park. I am familiar with this one. I guess from here on out, the only music I'm going to be familiar with is the alternative hit and maybe the dance track for whatever reason. Maybe I should look at the number one bluegrass hit. I don't know. You know what? I think I will do that. Give me a second. Okay, a simple Google search has rendered nothing. So, but it did show me that I did not look at the number one song in the U.S. Shame on me. It was Firework by Katy Perry. I am familiar with that one, so I am recalling this time just a little bit. This may have been, well, this would have had to have been just a little bit after I moved into tech. So, yes, the story continues. And speaking of stories, terrible segue for you. You'll probably hear me breathing in the microphone a lot. I'm trying to edit that out, but it takes forever to edit these suckers when you're really bad at speaking and I'm sick. So my head's pretty stopped up, so I probably sound like crap. I can't really hear all that much. I thought for a while I was going deaf in my right ear, but it turns out I think it's just fluid on my ears. Anyway, I just got to apologize for that. And I also have to apologize that my setup right now is pretty horrible. I'm speaking pretty closely in the microphone because all I have is an acoustic blanket to lay over the microphone and an acoustic blanket to hang up on the wall behind me. So, crap, this just setup just kind of sucks overall. But like I said, the story continues and it must continue. It must go on. So let us continue into movies, January 10th, 2011. Okay, so in 2011, I do remember some of these movies. True Grit was number one on January 10th, 2011. I remember going and watching that one, not the original, obviously, although I'm pretty dang old. It's the one with, what's his name in it? Jeff Daniels? Not Jeff Daniels. Who is that guy? Hang on, I'm going to look him up. Dadgummit, I was wrong. It's Jeff Bridges. Crap the bed and call me Jeff. Jeff Bridges, not Jeff Daniels. That would have been crazy. The Dumb and Dumber version of True Grit. Shooey. Yeah. So anyway, I do remember going and watching this in the movie theaters, and I actually would recommend somebody watch this if they haven't seen it before. I think it's worth watching. And I'm not really that big of a fan of Western movies, so I think that kind of says something. Anyway, True Grit, pretty good one. Black Swan, number two. Never seen it. Don't know. Sorry. Little Fockers. I've seen that one. That's like part 3 to Meet the Parents. And I will just say it's not nearly as good as Meet the Parents. Or the second one, whatever it was called. This one it's I guess it has its moments, not really all that great. Season of the Witch. I have seen a Season of the Witch, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which I actually think is a fairly underrated movie. I actually enjoy that one quite a bit. 3 More Days Till Halloween, 3 More Days to Halloween, 3 More Days to Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Please excuse my atonality. Anyway, Season of the Witch, that's I don't know what this one's about. Tron Legacy, I've seen that one. That one also has Jeff Bridges, not Jeff Daniels. I about said Jeff Daniels again. Yowee. The Fighter, I bet that's probably a cage fight movie. The King's Speech, never seen it. Although I do think it got good reviews at some point. I think, what's that dude's name that plays Captain Barbossa? Where you going, Jack? Eating the apple. What's his name? Jeffrey Rush. Jeffrey Rush plays in that, I think. Country Strong, don't know. It's got the word country in it. Probably has country music. I definitely didn't watch it. I was so burnt out on that by then. Tangled, I think that was a Pixar movie. DreamWorks. Yeah, DreamWorks, not Pixar. Yogi Bear. I don't see how it's 11. Probably one of them cash grab movies. I don't know. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I've never seen that one, although I probably should watch it. Down here all the way at number 14, Harry Potter and the The Deathly Hallows Part 1. This must be several weeks after this came out, because I'm sure that a Harry Potter movie would have been close to the top, if not at the top, when it first premiered. And I remember the big hubbub when they announced that the Harry Potter movie was going to be the last Harry Potter, Part 7, that's Deathly Hallows, is going to be in 2 parts. And I was kind of wondering, I'm like, how are they going to pull that off? But they stretched it out long enough to where it seemed to work out pretty well. Kind of like the Final Fantasy VII remake. The first 8 hours of the game is stretched out into a big 32-hour, 40-hour game. Pretty cool, though. I like it on both accounts. And going on down through here, it's just basically the stuff in weeks past have fallen spots. No big deal. I do remember some of these movies, though. So, yeah, pretty good time, I guess, for movies. I suppose. I mean, I know I watched one of them, 2 of them. So, yeah. And not that me watching a movie is the barometer for its greatness. It's just I'm familiar with these. I can attest to they are enjoyable to watch. Some of them, at least. So yeah, I'm a little bit more familiar than I was last week. I didn't do much in way of going to the movie. I rarely go to the movies anymore. And there was times in my life when I go very frequently. This is one of them times, I guess, maybe I was going a little bit more frequently. Right now is definitely not one of them. All right, anyway, that's movies. Let's go over to them there video games. So last time I did one of these, I said I'm pretty sure it was towards the end of the year, and it was that brief period of time where the holidays are coming up and all the releases have already been put out. So nothing really come out. But now we're in January 10th, and there have been a couple things come out. And I'm kind of familiar with all 3 of these. So not exactly on January 10th, but January 17th, Mass Effect 2 came out. And I've never played any of the Mass Effect games, but I remember one of my old roommates. He was actually a middle school friend of mine. Very good friend in middle school. He raved about them in high school. He said, you have to play Mass Effect 2, specifically Mass Effect 2. He said, that will be your favorite game of all time. And I guess because of, the whole prophet in his own land type scenario, baby's bottom syndrome, whatever you want to call it, just because I knew him, probably egotistically, I didn't listen to him and play it. But also, it's an Electronic Arts game. Sorry, EA. No, sorry, but not sorry. I guess that's before they did the whole DICE bull crap with the microtransactions, though. That was way before then. So I don't know. EA did do Def Jam Vendetta, I believe. There's something about their style of games that I just never really got into. Not sure what it was. Let's see. Scrolling down through here. January 25th, 2011. It's a couple weeks away, but Dead Space 2. That same guy that I told you about last time, Joe, I think it's McKinney, he was playing this game in his dorm room. I do remember specifically watching him play this, and it was like right when it came out, and he was like totally wrapped up in it and scaring him and all that jazz. I never played it. I don't think I played any of these, but the other one I think is Little Big World 2, and I remember that was big at the time just because of the creation aspect. So yeah. Just scrolling through here though, 2011 didn't seem like a bad year at all for games. Arkham City, it came out in October, which is far away, but just looking at that, I played Arkham City quite a bit. Deus Ex Human Revolution, played that one quite a bit. And Metal Gear Solid HD Collection, all the Metal Gear Solids. I'm definitely down with that. That's one of the greatest series of all time. I think Kojima is the master at blurring the line between the fourth wall and the fictional media that he puts out. Just fantastic. I still kind of buy into that whole thing. Maybe just the dreamer in me buys into that whole thing where there's maybe a conspiracy about where he faked getting fired to pull off the greatest video game achievement of all time. And we're still waiting to see the last part of Metal Gear Solid 5 that was never put out because you can't get it because the disarmament of all the nukes and multiplayer can't happen. And all the clues he left and the allusions to Moby Dick and how the let's see, the epilogue came several years later, 9 years later, or whatever, after the original story was put out. And it's right around 9 years that game's come out. It goes pretty deep. Pretty cool, though. Really enjoy those games. And yes, I did try the. Oh, looking back here, I do remember this is June. I'm sorry, I keep getting ahead of stuff, but I'm seeing all these games that come out, and I'm thinking, I remember that one. I remember that one. In June, the remake, or I'm sorry, the Ocarina of Time 3D for the 3DS came out. I didn't have that one, but I remember my friends. I didn't have a 3DS, so my friends that I had at the time really liked that when it came out. They went back and they bought it, and they went back and bought GoldenEye when it came out too. They were big Nintendo 64 dudes, I guess. Portal 2, obviously, that was a big deal when it came out. Man, a lot of these games on here. I guess this must be the blockbuster games. Wow, highest ranked game of that year was Arkham City, at least on Metacritic. Elder Scrolls, not Scrolls, but Scroll, came out on the Xbox 360 that year, November 11th. And I know I'm rambling. I'm sorry. I'm going to get this through this. I'm just kind of reminiscing a little bit here. Please bear with me. Uncharted 3. I remember G4T. Well, no, was G4 still around? Was it G4? I believe it was G4 saying that's probably at the time, that's probably the best game ever made. Which I think they also said that about God of War 3. But I think it was Sessler ranting on about that. I'm not sure. I could be wrong, though. G4 could have been long dead and gone by then. Boy, I miss G4. Not so much some of the stuff, but man, I miss Kevin Pereira. And Attack of the Show in general. Okay, so moving on. Those are the games. I didn't play, I mean, I played some of those, but nothing really around that came out around January 10th, 2011, although I can kind of speak to their popularity at the time. People were jazzed about some of these games. If you go back and play them now, you're probably like, some of these suck. But they were big at the time, dang it, okay? Gosh. Let a dude have his, let them have their moment. My goodness. Okay. So that is what was going on around 2011, January 10th. With all that hubbub going on, I mean, look, let me set the stage here. You're coming home from college and you got all these video games you got to play, and you're listening to the radio, and the only thing you recognize is Firework by Katy Perry. But they've played it 10,000 freaking times on the radio, so you decide just to turn the radio off. You get home and you realize you don't have any money to buy any of these video games because you spent it all watching True Grit and Tron Legacy. So I guess the only thing left to do is to go over to Cartoon Network and to watch some dadgum regular show. And Adult Swim. Don't forget Adult Swim. So here's what you would have seen if you would have turned on the television the night before and ran it through that day. 12 o'clock a.m. Moral Oral. Never got into that one. It's like a claymation type show. 12:15 Super Jail. Never got into that one either. Metalocalypse 12:30. I didn't watch that one either, but I kind of know about it because there was this black metal dude in my band class in high school, and he talked about it all the time, something about Death Clock. I never watched it. He swore by it. Maybe I'll go watch it because I hear it's good, but I'm not sure. But 12:45, I can attest to the genius of Aqua Teen Hunger Force. However, this episode is not the greatest episode. It's Escape from can you pronounce this? Leprocopolis. It's like one of the very early episodes. It might be episode number 2. They were still kind of finding their footing there. Although one of the early episodes is a great one. The Bus of the Undead. That's a great episode. First episode really isn't bad either. And this one's not horrible. It's just I kind of skip over it when I'm binge watching Aqua Teen. It's not bad. I just would rather just get to the other episode. 1 o'clock and 1:30, we got a block of King of the Hill. Trouble with the Gribbles. I remember that one very well because I just recently rewatched that one. It is the one where Dale is trying to sue the Manitoba Cigarette Company because his wife wants a facelift, and that's the only way he can get the money to do it. So they send him a smoking Sammy, like Big Mouth Billy Bass, those old singing fish they had, a smoking Sammy fish that you hang on the wall, press the button, and it sings the parody song to Don't Worry, Be Happy. And something about taking a smoke, toke for toke, something like that. But anyway, he finds out that they're bugging him, and he's listening to that, and he starts trying to sabotage their whole operation because he realizes it, and he's like, Nancy, you're horrible. Why don't you put a bag over your head? You know, all this stuff, and it's just like obviously blatantly, horrible acting on Dale Gribble's part, and but it really is Johnny Hardwick, yeah, at some of his finest work. And there's one part where he goes into when he just realizes he's being bugged, he goes into Bill's house and he sets up the radio and he turns it on. And it's that song. I think it's Nights in White Satin. Pretty good song, but there's a part where it says to where he turns on the radio really loud to where the Manitoba company can't make out what he's saying. And there's a part in that song where it says, and I love you. And it repeats that a few times, and I love you. And then Dale Gribble goes, I'm being bugged. And it says, and I love you. And then Bill says, what? And he goes, I'm being bugged. And right as it says, and I love you, it's kind of crescendoing. And Bill says, what? And every time he says what, it says, and I love you. And finally he turns it off and he says, I'm being bugged. But anyway, it's pretty good. It's one of them things I can't deliver it nearly as well. I mean, obviously, but it's one of the things you kind of got to watch it because there's so many mediums of comedy just merging there into one. It really is just an experience. In the next episode of King of the Hill, oh wait, sorry, there's one more joke on there where that dude from, I'm pretty sure it's the guy that was on Unsolved Mysteries, with the really and he was on the movie Airplane too. He has like that real kind of it's not a sinister voice, but it's kind of a creepy voice. It's the Unsolved Mysteries dude. You know who I'm talking about. Golly, Google it. Unsolved Mysteries, all that jazz. Well, he's the I don't remember if the guy's name's Wayland or whatever. He's the president of the Manitoba Tobacco Company, and he's like, listen, you guys don't know who we're messing with. He's got the club jacket or whatever, the company sports jacket or whatever. You've got to smoke so many cigarettes, he'd be dead 3 times over just to get that. You got to be careful who we're going up against here. So it's kind of funny. It's one of those episodes that really develops the character of Dale Gribble, and he testifies for himself in court. So he's his own lawyer, and he's asking himself questions, jumping back in and out of the to give his testimony in the witnesses stand. And he's just leading himself in some crazy directions. And more I think about it, that really is a golden episode of King of the Hill. And the other episode, Unfortunate Son, that's the one where Cotton, with the VFW, can't pay their bills anymore, so they've got to move into the Hill House. And so Peggy suggests that they get some other, or Peggy or Hank, one or the other, suggests that they get the veterans of the Vietnam War to join the VFW. And it's a decent episode. It's not as good as Trouble with the Gribbles. It's still pretty good though. That period of time in King of the Hill is really, I think that's around maybe season 4, maybe season 5, season 3, somewhere around there. That's really where that show starts to probably hit peak. That, and then maybe right at the end too, towards the end, it started getting really good again. And at the beginning, obviously, it just for the novelty of it, if nothing else. But anyway, 2:00, The Oblongs, 2:30, 2:45, Squidbillies from creator Dave Willis, the same guy that created Aqua Teen. Family Guy, 3:00, 3:30, that's Believe It or Not, Joe's Walking on Air. And Hannah Banana, 4:00, Children's Hospital, 4:15, Robot Chicken, Moral Oral, 4:30, Super Jail, King of the Hill. So basically reruns right there. 6:00, Hero 108, Ben 10, Alien Force, Bakugan, and Beyblade. Who could forget Bakugan and Beyblade? We just from now on, Bakugan and Beyblade, I'm guessing, are going to be there. I still don't know the difference of them. I won't throughout this whole 8 seasons of regular show. Or if they tack on even more, Lord willing, please. I won't know them. I won't know the difference through the 9th season, although that probably won't be on air by the time the 9th season comes around. But Beyblade, Bakugan, I know one of them spins around and hits things. I'm pretty sure that's Beyblade. Bakugan, no flipping idea. I know that Bakuman is an excellent anime about people that draw manga. Bakugan, no clue. 8 o'clock, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Once again, it's past Gen 1. Forget it. Who cares about Hot Wheels? Not me. Although Hot Wheels actually are pretty cool. I wish I had a mystery machine, Hot Wheel, like, Freddy driving the mystery machine. So the Scooby-Doo van, come on, living in the mystery machine down by the river. Total Drama Island, 9 o'clock. Not into that one. Although if Stone Cold Steve Austin hosted it like he did that one show, I probably would have watched it. Johnny Test, 9:30, 10. The Powerpuff Girls, 10:30. That's with Twisted Sister and Cover Up. All right. What's new, Scooby-Doo? Mummy Scares Best. Always down for Scooby-Doo. Dexter's Laboratory. Eyes and Dee Dee and the Man. I miss Dexter's Lab. It was a good one. Codename Kid Next Door. I don't know if that was still actually in production at this time. It's a shame. I never super got into it. I only saw a few sparse episodes. I would actually kind of like to go back and watch that one, but I don't know if I'll ever find the time. 1 o'clock, 1:30 p.m., Tom and Jerry. Classics, as always. Hero 108. 2. League of Super Evil 2:30. Ed, and Eddie. I've already told you my thoughts on that. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Courage the Cowardly Dog, 4 o'clock to 4:30. Johnny Test. Something called 16. I have no idea. No clue. Never heard of it. Don't know it. Total Drama World Tour. So I guess that's the extension of Total Drama Island. I bet you Stone Cold still isn't hosting it. So guess what? I ain't watching it. 7 o'clock. Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. I watched it. Okay. I watched it. 7:30. That's Johnny Test. King Johnny and Johnny Reanimated. 8 o'clock. Adventure Time. To Cut a Woman's Hair. I think this may be an episode that has something to do with tree trunks. I'm not sure. If I saw it, I would remember it. I just don't know these episodes by their title like I do King of the Hill or Aqua Teen. I know I've seen this episode of Adventure Time, though, because I've seen Adventure Time twice through now. So, tree trunks, the somewhat innuenduous elephant on Adventure Time. Oh, boy. 8:15 regular show with the topic of the day here, Appreciation Day. And then after that, we have, Lord, what is this? Mad. Okay, not Mad TV, but Mad. Robotomy. That is one I've never heard of before, I don't think. Robotomy. That kind of looks like a little bit of the whole Adventure Time regular show animation, though, from the picture I'm seeing. Kind of looks like a robotic Lich King from Adventure Time. Oh, well. 9 o'clock. Just Another Manic Con Day. I think that's one of the last episodes that they put out of King of the Hill. One of the last episodes in production. So, yeah, cool. This was around the end. This would have had to been around the end because I remember my roommate watching the last episode of King of the Hill, and I thought, man, don't watch that around me. That's so sad. I don't want to see it end. Then American Dad came on, and then Family Guy. Okay, so that was your day of programming for January 10th, 2011. Let's get down to the episode at hand, Appreciation Day. Okay, so probably something I'm going to start doing more regularly for you is reading the synopsis. One, because contrary to popular belief, I can read. And two, probably it's going to give the listener a better idea of what's going on beforehand. I mean, it just kind of makes sense. It's very short and it's provided to me on this wiki page, so why not read it? So the synopsis for today's episode is, on Appreciation Day, Mordecai and Rigby decide to write fraudulent statements in Benson's book of park records. But trouble ensues when the listed events happen for real. So something about a book of records, they write in it and it becomes real. Kind of like, I don't know, not the Page Master. I guess maybe like Death Note, except not Death Note. Horrible analogy. Let's continue. Production code 203, obviously season 2, episode 3. Premiere date January 10th, 2011, USA, April 20th, 2011 in the UK. Directed by Mike Roth. That's been the case quite a bit of times, or most frequently in most of these episodes. Written and storyboarded by Kat Morris and Paul Scarlotta. Okay. Previous episode was It's Time. The next episode is Peeps. And when I saw this, I thought, Peeps. No, surely it's it's too early for for one of the baby duck episodes. And then I'm like, no, Kirkland. Ducks don't go peep. That's chickens you're thinking of. It's not the baby ducks episode. It's the episode with the big eyeball thing, which is actually a pretty good episode. Okay. This block of episodes is coming up here. They hit a little bit of a stride here in a few episodes. Okay, so just stick around. It gets better. It gets good. I mean, it was good, but it gets even better. I mean, we get to see Rigby shooting lasers like Rambo. Pretty cool. This episode though has its moments, so let's kind of continue on with it here. Let's see the voices. Mordecai, obviously J.G. Quintel, Rigby, William Salyers, nothing new there. Pops, Benson, and Muscle Man, Sam Marin, nothing new there. Skips and the monster of this episode, Mark Hamill. Nothing really new. Okay, so there's no big guest voice actors. We don't have Shooter McGavin coming in playing CJ's dad at Putt Putt Golf. We don't got none of that. Okay, but we do have a pretty solid performance from the normal voice actors, which is always a good time. Trying to see if there's anything that I need to tell you beforehand. I don't think so. Let's go ahead and just dive into what happens here. So, as usual, the show doesn't bore us and it gets to the chorus. There's not really an introduction theme song. In fact, I can only think of one time where there is an introduction song for the show, and that's the Evangelion parody in like season 7 or 6, somewhere around there. It's a Baby Duck episode. But anyway, this episode opens up with the title Appreciation Day, and when I say the park crew are all in front of the house. As many episodes open up, the crew's sitting on the steps and Benson's up front. And he's got this episode though, he's got a table set up with plaques on it, and there's some balloons set up. And he's pulling a speech where he's like, the next person receiving an appreciation plaque is Skips. And then they all clap, Skips trots down there. He skips in every sense of the word like he always does. I love whenever he's moving, his arms don't move. They're like straight to the ground and he's skipping. He's got the smile on his face. And we find out that he is appreciated because he hasn't missed a day of work in a whole year. Pretty impressive feat, if you ask me. I've seen some kids come to school that didn't miss a day of school their whole middle school career, at least. So that's really impressive, too. Anyway, we cut back to the steps with the guys and Benson. He says here in the book of records, you haven't missed a day of work for the whole year. They go back to the guys and they're clapping, and Russell Man's like, man, that's like 400 days. And it's I mean, that's just an obvious, I don't know. It's like low hanging fruit, but it's just a good one in my book. I laugh every time I hear it because the look on the guy's face, they're like, is he serious? And they just keep clapping. And I got to point out something here. Got to salute Sam Marin for the voice acting he does with Benson. He's very consistent on the way he's saying appreciate. He's saying appreciate, like with an I sound. And I realize tomato, some people say it that way, but it's very helpful at this early stage of the series to help develop the character of Benson, because we don't have a whole lot of Benson episodes at this point. We don't know a whole lot of his backstory. So all these little minute details, they add up to help develop a character that just isn't getting much attention at this point. He becomes, in my opinion, one of the best characters in the series, but he doesn't do much early on. He's just the cranky boss that's got anger issues. But little things like this, it's really these little nuances. It's like, yeah, that's Benson, and I just appreciate that. No pun intended. So next up is Pops, and as always, he's got the run of the mill Pops response. He's hooray! And he runs down there, and he gets down there, and Benson's like, you hear him. Mordecai and Rigby are talking, but you hear Benson in the background going, for helping a baby bird back into its nest. And it's like, how small are these tasks going to be? It's like everybody's getting an award for everything they're doing now. It's like these tasks are so small that it's just trivial stuff they're getting appreciation plaques for. And that, in my opinion, is also brilliant writing, because it just emphasizes, it helps to accentuate, I guess, what's coming up with Mordecai and Rigby here. Okay, I'm sorry. I got to keep cutting this. I'm sorry. I keep having to do multiple takes because I go back. I'm watching this episode as I go along, and I've forgotten that this episode is actually this good. This is the first episode, I think, where Muscle Man really starts to be the quintessential Muscle Man. But I keep having to restart because I watch this scene over and over, and I just keep laughing. And I mean, it's some of you'll probably watch it and be like, "This isn't that funny." I don't know what it is, but it's just like this show. It's starting to become the regular show now. But Mordecai and Rigby, they're up there, talking about, "Hey man, we're going to get us a sweet plaque, yeah." And Vince is down there. And last but not least, two guys that we couldn't do without. They teach us to not only work hard, but work hard at having fun. Two guys that we couldn't do without here at the park. And those two guys are, and then he goes, and it cuts to Mordecai's face, the long M sound. And he goes, Muscle Man, and high five goes. Muscle Man runs down there just out of nowhere. It cuts to him. He's already got his shirt off, doing the helicopter over his head. Yeah, you know that, Mordecai and Rigby. And he slams it down. And then the scene cuts directly to him. He's got his shirt back on, and they're in the golf cart doing donuts, and he's, woo, just driving around. It's one of those, later grandma's time. I've seen, I use the GIF, GIF, Jiffy. I don't know what they're called, but if you just type in Muscle Man regular show, you'll see it. It's just him he's standing at that table spinning his shirt over his head. That's where this comes from. And it's just like, that's classic Muscle Man all the way. And every time I see it, it's just like, I will send that to work messages all the time. And everybody's like, what is this idiot talking about? We have no idea. But me inside, I'm just like, yes, ugly green guy spinning a shirt over his head. I don't know. It gets me every time. So Mordecai and Rigby, they've got like a beef with Benson. Now they go, they're like, well, what about us? And he looks at the book. Oh, yeah, Mordecai to Rigby. You haven't done anything. Clean up this mess or you're fired. The typical Benson thing. And he's walking to the golf cart, and they're like, well, hang on, wait now. Surely there's something good about us. Nope, nothing good about you. And eventually they get to like, let me see that book. And he's like, no, this is the official park book of records. It contains everything ever done in the park, and I can only write the truth in it, so on and so forth. And they're like, well, can't you just fudge it just a little bit to make us look good? No, I can't. I can only write the truth. And the truth is, I don't appreciate you. And then he drives off in the golf cart. And the golf cart sounds like, normally, I don't think it sounds like this, but it sounds like it's about to fall apart. Like it sounds like he's dragging the ground with it. It's going really slow too. I don't think they really, I don't know. I don't know if they thought about that or not, but yeah, that kind of stuck out to me when I was watching through it this for the 400th time. So Mordecai concocts a scheme that I bet you if Benson just saw us doing one job, he would appreciate us. And Rigby says, yeah, he'll appreciate us so hard that we'll be the ones handing out the plaques to us. And then we get to the montage of the episode of them trying to do a job. So the montage, it starts off with them raking leaves, and it's the whole spiel of they're trying to wait until Benson comes along for them to do the job. So I guess they won't have to do as much work, and it'll look like they're doing something. So they're on the lookout. They're raking leaves, and then they see a golf cart coming by, and they start raking harder. And then it turns out it's Pops, though, and he waves as he goes by, and they get mad, and they start shoving each other for some reason. And then they have like a little tussle in the leaves there, and they start spreading them everywhere. And then Benson walks along, and he sees that, and he records it in the book. And then the next thing, I think they're mowing the grass, and Rigby's like riding. It's a push mower, but Rigby's riding on the push mower. He's got binoculars, and he sees Benson walking away, and he points, and then Mordecai kicks the thing into bunny speed, but he trips. So the mower starts dragging him, and they almost run over Benson, and then they hit a tree, and he records that. And then I think they're painting, and they spill paint on the golf cart while Benson's in it. And then the montage ends, and they're sitting there, or they're standing there washing the golf cart, and they're like, this is hopeless. If anybody reads that book of records, they're going to think we're complete idiots. So Rigby comes up with another scheme. So they decide they're going to change the records in the book. So they sneak into the house at night, and they open the door, and I guess they're already in Benson's office, but Rigby looks out, and he's like, the coast is clear. Then it shows Mordecai, and he just says the book of records, and it's like the book starts breathing or swelling up, kind of like kind of puts you in mind of the, what's it called? Necromnion, the book in The Evil Dead. And it's I guess it's a bit like that mixed with Jumanji or whatever, but they start reading out of it. And it's basically Mordecai and Rigby are nothing but a bunch of no good slackers, untrustworthy, unteachable, blah, blah, blah. And then finally, the thing he gets most upset about is like, destruction of park property. And Rigby's like, yeah, sure, that once. Or that one time. And if you think it's like every episode, they're destroying something at the park. So at first I thought, this joke's going to be it's not going to land. But yeah, that one little tagline there at the end. Yeah, that one time. So Mordecai starts erasing the lines in the book. He starts writing stuff down. And, it's just Mordecai and Rigby are the best employees I have. And here's where he messed up. He let Rigby get a hold of the book. Rigby starts writing crap. Every morning they make blueberry pancakes and wash the floor, blah, blah, blah. And then Mordecai gets it back. They're taking turns, And, I love Mordecai and Rigby. They're my favorite employees. And Rigby gets it. They sweat so hard. They're covered in sweat every day after work. They work so hard. Mordecai gets it back. I would trust him with my own life. And then Rigby gets it. One day there was a blizzard and Skips broke his leg, but that's okay because Mordecai and Rigby drove him to the hospital. And then Mordecai, for some reason, goes, yeah, the emergency part of the hospital. And then Rigby, yeah. And then he's like, something about Snowballs the ice monster or something. He was 20 foot tall and they were attacked by Snowballs the ice monster. And then they hear footsteps and, oh no, Benson's coming. So they, shut the book and put it back and they never finish what they're writing. And you can probably guess what's going to happen at this point, but it's worth seeing through because this episode's a lot better than I remember it. So one thing I want to point out when Benson walks in to anybody from the Turtles Forever channel, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies where they're hiding up on the ceiling, how they're very agile because they can jump up and when April's boss, Danny's dad, goes in to check or whatever, they're hiding on the ceiling and he can't see him. You kind of think that that's going to come here because Benson comes in and he's like, there it is, and he walks over and he grabs the book and he goes, and he looks around like he heard something. He looks right up at the ceiling, right, like that's exactly where I know that's where they're going to be hiding, but they're just hiding behind the desk. So that kind of subverted my expectations a little bit right there. So Benson walks out, and Mordecai's like, just be glad we didn't get caught. The night passes, and it's the next morning. Mordecai and Rigby walk down to the kitchen, and surprise, surprise, there's pancakes cooking. And they're like, blueberry, these smell great, but who did them? So on and so forth. And Benson walks downstairs, and he's like, what are you two slackers up to? And then he smells, and he's like, oh, man, Rigby, those pancakes smell great. Did you make those? And he's like, oh, are they ready yet? He's like, well, yeah. And he hands him a stack of them, and he says, man, these are great. You guys made my morning. And he goes, oh no, you didn't. Did you guys do the dishes too? And it cuts to show the dishes. And he goes, and you washed the floor. And you can see his reflection in the floor. I'd forgotten that this line was in this episode. He goes, oh man, I appreciate it. I do. And just his delivery of it that always stuck in my mind when I would watch the regular show. That's one of the things. That's a line I'll pull to the kids, actually. I appreciate that. I do. And they're like, what are you talking about? We didn't do anything. But anyway, yeah, so you can kind of see what's happening here. The stuff they write in the book is kind of coming true. It's I don't know. It kind of gives me vibes of the monkey's paw type deal, too. Although I know it's completely different, but it's kind of one of those top stories. Oh, yeah, and of course, they stand up, and after he says, I appreciate it, I do, they'll go, yeah, and they're all giving each other fives. It's ridiculous looking, but it's hilarious. So Benson's like, I need some reliable guys. All of a sudden, now they're reliable, like they wrote in the book. I need some reliable guys like you to take care of some of the hard jobs at the park today. They reluctantly agree, and their hard jobs consist of them weeding the garden. They are dragging a golf cart that's missing one of the wheels. I guess that clanky old golf cart finally bit the dust. I don't know, a day later. And then they're picking up cans, and they're carrying rocks on their back for whatever reason. They're carrying them from point A to like 10 feet away to make another pile. It's just a pile of rocks. And they carry it to make another pile like 10 feet away. And they're all doing this. It's a really nice sounding slide guitar. I think it kind of sounds like a mandolin or maybe a ukulele playing the rhythm part. It's probably just an acoustic guitar capoed up or something. I don't know. But it's a really, really catchy little tune here. I thought, well, that kind of sounds like something you might hear on SpongeBob or something more than it does a regular show song. But shout out to Sean Seals for probably writing that. So Mordecai's like, is it just me or does being appreciated blow? Rigby says, yeah, man, it's totally not worth it. And Pops drives up in a golf cart and he's like, Mordecai, Rigby, did you hear? It's going to blizzard or it's going to snow or something like that. And they're like, what, snow in the middle of summertime? Sounds like more crazy Pops talk to me. And he's like, I've already donned my snowshoes. And he's got the big tennis racket looking snowshoes on. He's driving the golf cart somehow with them on, and he drives off. And yeah, that's when they say, sounds like more crazy Pop talk to me. That kind of puts me in mind of the old Disney movie of Tom and Huck. Sounds like more drunk talk from Muff Potter. The dialogue from that movie always cracked me up. Anyway, continuing on. So they're in the middle of laughing, ha 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 ha, Pop's crazy. And then just right in the middle of them laughing, kablam, a blizzard comes and it just starts like snowing crazy. And the snow's just like pretty much, it's like somebody just took a giant bucket of snow and just dropped it. And they're like, this is crazy. And Rigby says, it's the book. And what? No, it can't be the book. Don't you get it? The work, the blah, 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 the appreciation. It's the book. We got it. And then they remember Skips, because he's going to break his leg. We got to go find him. So they get in the golf cart and they pull out of the garage of the house and they're driving somehow on snow and without sliding all around. And Mordecai's like, I can't see anything. I'm never going to find him. And then you see the outline of Skips and they hit him and he's laying there on the ground. They go to pick him up. And when they pick him up, they stand him up and that's when his leg just goes and it breaks in half and and so they're the ones that actually broke his leg. They wrote in the book that his leg got broken. They're the ones that broke his leg, both by writing his name in the book, Death Note style, except he didn't die because he skips. And also by hitting him. So kind of a double whammy there. So they get Skips in the cart and they start to drive off. And we get actually a really good, it just stuck out to me, good animation of, you see in the snowstorm, but you still seeing the tail lights of the golf cart as it goes through the snowstorm. The golf cart kind of starts to fade away, but the tail lights are still pretty apparent, because they're lights. And then they hit a pile of snow, and Mordecai just decides he's just going to keep driving straight into it, and he just keeps hitting the gas, but it's like, what do you think's going to happen? So he just keeps flooring it, and Skips looks completely fine sitting in the golf cart like that. He doesn't look like he's in any pain at all. Mordecai says, wait here. And so he goes, gets, I don't know what kind of device this is. I guess it's like a snow blower or something, like a leaf blower except for snow, but it kind of like a push mower, but it like pulls the snow up in it and shoots it out the side. Look, listen, I don't live up north, so I'm not sure what these are. Probably everybody, for all two of you that live in the northern United States that are listening, you're like, you idiot, that's XYZ machine. But I don't know, sorry. We use a shovel here. But anyway, the snow starts hitting this big old like pillar of ice or snow or something, and then an avalanche comes. I guess you could call it an avalanche. It's just a big pile of like more like a landslide of ice, which I guess would be an avalanche. But comes and it knocks down the power lines, and the electricity hits the snow, and I guess it shocks this monster to life, and that's what becomes Snowballs the Ice Monster. So Snowballs the Ice Monster kind of looks like some of these pictures you'd see of like the Loch Ness Monster, or maybe like a Lapras Pokemon, big giant snow monster, but his eyes kind of look like the jewels from Ice King's crown, and his mouth is like a tunnel, but it's got teeth that grow in like a circular pattern. Like he doesn't have an upper jaw and a lower jaw. It's like a circular pattern of teeth. And Mordecai's like, you just had to write Snowballs the Ice Monster. Ruby says he doesn't look that bad. Classic. This is like a Looney Tunes type trope or something. He doesn't look that bad. And then the monster starts breathing fire all over everything, so it's like, yeah, it's that bad. So Mordecai, they're in the golf cart driving away. Mordecai's like, you just had to write that in the book. And immediately, or why'd you have to stop writing or something like that? And Skips immediately, he's like, you wrote lies in the book of park records? Like he knows exactly what's going on. He's always that guy. He's the guy that always knows there's no need for exposition city with Skips. He knows. You just say a few words. He knows the problem, and he knows what has to be done. And Rigby's like, well, I just didn't get to the end, and it was going to be super sweet with bazookas and helicopters. And they're like, no, that's it. We got to fix it in the book. We got to find Benson. And then the scene cuts to Benson going down the steps at the house, and he's leaving the house with the book. Mordecai and Rigby pull up, and Benson's like, oh, guys, they're just the guys I wanted to see. Here's your appreciation plaque. And Mordecai says, not now, no time for that. And he says, give me the book. And he takes the book. He's like, I'm going to change everything back to the way it was. Rigby says, no, leave some of the good stuff. And then the monster comes up and like, yoink, grabs the book and takes off. It just slides away. It doesn't even bother to, really acknowledge Mordecai or Rigby.
and they're like, the book, and the thing's like going really, it's like, it doesn't run, it like slides, but it's like sliding super, super fast. And it's taking its like pincers there that's on its arm and pulling out pages of the book and throwing them back. And Mordecai's going, no, and Rigby's running and he's like jumping up and catching the pages, Bart's Nightmare style or something. And he gets them all to Mordecai. Mordecai starts writing, and then the monster breathed fire on itself and it died. Well, then the monster goes and it breathes fire like all over this forest and these cars. And he goes, and then the monster disappeared forever. And then it breathes fire on the house and the house gets destroyed. And Skips somehow with his broken leg comes skidding up in the golf cart, and he reveals to him it's because the pages aren't in the cover of the book, the spine of the book or whatever. So then they pull a team type effort, and Skips heads it. He pulls a Yajirobe and he like floors the golf cart off a ramp into the snow monster's arm. Yajirobe cutting off Vegeta's tail there when he's a gorilla, whatever. And the book falls, and then Rigby runs over and he grabs that, and like the monster almost eats him, but it like he misses, so somehow that speeds up Rigby flying. It kind of gives him a speed boost, and he can get to the cover of the book. And Mordecai throws it to Mordecai, and then he gets eaten. Not Mordecai, but Rigby. He gets like consumed by the snow monster. So Mordecai puts the pages in the book, and you get like a flash of light and a burst of wind, and then he writes, and then the monster disappeared forever and everything went back to normal. He shuts the book, and right as the monster's lunging for him, it basically just disintegrates into just like snow and kind of runs over Mordecai, and then kind of collects. It condenses into a big snowball and flies up into the air and starts spinning around, and it starts shooting lights out of it like a disco ball or something, and then it explodes and knocks Mordecai to the ground, and then all of a sudden the snow's gone, and it's like the surrealism of the episode is just, gone in an instant. So Mordecai gets up and Rigby's like, whoa. Benson just comes marching up out of nowhere. He goes, I'll take that. And he takes the book out of their hands. He goes, I don't know what's been going on here, but, yada, 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 or why the park's messed up, but you two better clean it up or you're fired. And then Mordecai's like, what mess? Because everything's back to normal. And he looks around. He's like, well, and then Rigby says, we did all the jobs you asked. And then Benson, he doesn't really have any words. He's like, let's go, Skips. And he gets in the golf cart and drives off. And then we have honestly, it's not really it's pretty weak ending for an episode. I mean, as far as like the last joke, the last punchline, Rigby just says, what, still no appreciation. But to be quite honest with you, I mean, it's kind of like, that's kind of like the falling action of a story, because there was a lot of good stuff that went on in this episode. So overall, I mean, that's the episode. So, we get the credits, writer, Matt Price, Mike Roth. If I could get that out, Mike, I stutter a lot, but whatever. We won't tell anybody. That'll be our little secret. The episode is pretty good, though, overall. I did not remember it being this good. I wasn't looking all that forward to rewatching it, but I was pleasantly surprised, because I thought this was one of those, 4 or 5. Well, if I was going to rank it, it'd be a 4 or a 5 type episode. Quite honestly, it's a 6 or a 7, just going back. And that's after me. I don't know in the past if I just couldn't get into this episode because the snow, I just didn't want to see much of the snow anymore or whatever, or we never see the snow monster again, or, it's one of those monsters of the week type episodes. But it's got a lot. I mean, it hits the ground running with a lot of the tropes. I mean, granted, Muscle Man's not in there a lot, but when he is, it's definitely Muscle Man. High Five's ghost isn't talking yet, but we're getting there. We're definitely getting there now. It's started. Benson is getting that character development. Skips he's getting that whole thing now more and more, where he's the guy to go to when you got a problem. Well, he's the guy to go to when you got a problem that makes no sense at all. A lot of times, Muscle Man's the guy that knows a guy, so they'll go to him when they got a problem. But Skips is usually the guy that, when it's mystic or something like that, he just he doesn't got to be caught up. He knows what's going on. He's so experienced. So it's this episode I thought was really good, actually. It's definitely not the best by a long shot, but I thought that, well, I'm gonna have to get through this one and maybe get through Peeps and Dizzy, and then we get to that really good block of My Mom, High Score, which is definitely a good one. Both of those are good. Against the TV, that's a great one. The Hammer, yeah. Party Pete, all those there's some pretty doggone good episodes coming up here. I thought I was going to have to kind of get through Appreciation Day, and I kind of like Peeps. I thought about, get through Dizzy. Hopefully Dizzy is a little bit better than I remember. We'll find out when we get there. But I didn't have to just grind through Appreciation Day. It turned out to be a pretty doggone good episode, in my opinion. I would highly encourage you to go back and give it a watch. I mean, it's only 10, 12 minutes, something like that. All these episodes, 10, 12 minutes. And it's don't get me wrong, it's still one of these, all these episodes feel like a one-off episode. It's like, it kind of like SpongeBob, there's no real super big story arc. There's common threads that run through, but there's no like long running story arc, or, it kind of feels like the universe resets. Well, it still feels like that here, or like The Simpsons, the universe resets every episode. Kind of feels like that here, but it kind of feels like that up to this point, because there hasn't been a whole lot of, I don't want to say continuity, but just callbacks or anything like that. There wasn't. I mean, there was a little bit in season 1, but we're not there yet where they're doing that a whole lot. So it's all coming, and I know I keep saying that, but we're only in season 2, episode 3. I mean, there's 8 seasons, so I hope there's 8. Yeah, there's 8. So yeah, I think I think this one was a very pleasant surprise, and I'm just repeating myself at this point. Go watch it, give it a shot. It's right up there. Honestly, it's on par with. Let's see. It's maybe a little bit below Caffeinated Concert Tickets, but it's up there with. It's definitely up there with an episode like, say, definitely up there with Just Set Up the Chairs, or maybe Grilled Cheese Deluxe, something like that. It's definitely better than Rigby's Body and Meet Your Maker. Absolutely. Maybe Mordecai and the Rigby's. But yeah, good episode. I'm going to say a solid 6.5 out of 10. Okay. So that's about all I got for Appreciation Day. Next week, we're going to be, well, I shouldn't say next week. I'm sorry. As by now, you've probably realized these suckers, I record these things way far in advance. I haven't even gotten to the point where I'm editing my season 2 episodes yet. So it's usually, you've probably caught on by now, a couple weeks between episodes. I just want it to be hopefully somewhat regular. No pun intended again. Sorry. But the thing is I'm trying to get at least a half a season, somewhere around there, a good chunk of 10, 12 episodes saved up to where I can release them without hiccups. And it just takes a while with all the stuff I've got going on, because I've got music stuff going on too, and a whole lot of other junk besides my job. And I don't want to, people to be waiting 6 years between one episode to the next. Obviously not 6 years, but and if it comes down to it, this is probably never going to be one of those rapid fire podcasts that I can put out every week or twice a week or whatever, like some of the other podcasts can do. This is me doing everything by myself. And I realize in the past I've been like, well, even on this episode, this is really hard to edit out the breaths and all that. Yes, I have Isotope RX, and yes, I can just put the deep breath on there. Doesn't always take care of it, okay? And it does take a while, because on the laptop I'm on, can't just run for whatever reason, I can't get the RX Connect where I can just put it right in the editor and then shift it right back. I've got to export it, put it in RX editor, edit it all, and that takes a little bit of time to get the mouse clicks and everything out, denoise it and all that jazz, and then bring it back in and then start the editing. And you're like, oh, wow, baby. Maybe not. I don't know. Yes, first world problems. I totally acknowledge that. But it does take time, is my point, and I just don't have a whole lot of time. If it does come down to it, I will sacrifice consistent releases for quality. Or, well, I shouldn't even say quality, because I realize these podcasts probably aren't that. Podcasters, listen to me. These podcasts really probably aren't that great. Some of the other stuff, though, that I've in the past, The interns that work for me, I hate to even recognize them, but that freaking Marceline's Playground, they for whatever reason they decided they were going to butcher the movie Clue and Mask of the Phantasm, two of my favorite movies, and they released those in parts. So honestly it was weeks. I guess it was weeks between some. I think the last part of Mask of the Phantasm, it was probably 3 or 4 weeks between parts 3 and 4. I think. I mean, obviously 4 comes after 3, but the penultimate and then the end episode, it was probably 3 weeks or 4 weeks between then. So point is, I guess whoever's affiliated with this channel or whatever I'm affiliated with, probably not going to be if it has to be, it won't be the most regular of all, or most frequent, I should say, releases, but going to at least try to have we'll sacrifice that for the aesthetic that we put out. And what that aesthetic is, total trash, but it is the aesthetic that I put out. What do I mean by that? It's like we're the garage rock of podcasts. Our timing's horrible. We sound like crap, but dadgummit, we're us. So when I say us, I'm me. So anyway, that's a long enough rant. I've probably taken up enough of your time. I do appreciate you listening. I'm sorry, correction. I appreciate you listening. And I hope you come back for the next episode. If you wouldn't mind, if you made it to the end, congratulations, you win. What prize do you win? It's not a great one. I'm going to ask you to, if you would, maybe leave a review or share. I would love it if you shared the show or, any of that stuff. I don't know how all this stuff works out. I do know I would like the audience to grow, though. I can't promise them all that much, but I would like the audience to grow. So, yeah, that share, the review. I'm sorry, I'm used to watching YouTube if I ever consume any media, and they're all like, share, like, thumbs up, ring the bell. I don't guess you do that on podcasts. I don't know. So, yeah. Come on back next time. We're going to be going over Peeps. It's a pretty good episode from what I remember. Rigby dresses up like Rambo. Pew, pew, pew. Shooting lasers, all that jazz. Pretty fun stuff. Hopefully one day we can get another guest on here at some point. Till then, I'm that guy that does this podcast. Be a regular podcast about the regular show. Yeah. Till then, it's been a regular show about the regular show. Sign off.